Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Hold on. Where's my music? I had it already. You know what? I kind of feel like we should start at the very beginning. There we go. That feels more right. Let's come in and check the charts, eh? Time for a rollover. Well, let's start with oil. Yesterday, later in the day, kind of feel like that the market started to realize that, like, hey, this doesn't seem to be going away. Seems like it's getting worse. And we drifted a little bit higher. But this morning, nothing too big. Oh, wait, we have some data, right? Let's see here. What's the numbers coming in at? US PCE 3.1 in line with expectations. Consumer spending, spot 4 versus spot 3. Personal income, spot 4 versus spot 5. Slightly under expectations. So that might be what's pushing them up there. Oh, PCE price index year over year, 2.8 versus 2.9. Okay. So maybe a slight boon to the treasuries. That's good. Anyways, not a lot of new headlines this morning, but from what I've read so far. So it's kind of weird, honestly. Here's the treasuries. Well, the treasuries pushed lower again yesterday. So the thing about yesterday was that close. So right there is the close. Was ugly. Oh my gosh. I've not seen a close like that in the treasuries in a long time. I mean, usually I'm not around. I was working from home from yesterday, so I saw it. They just absolutely piled into shorts. Sell. I wouldn't say it was shorts, but you know, could be long positions puking, but they just absolutely puked into the close. We've recovered that in the overnight, but I'm still real concerned. I mean, like, I'm not, the oil isn't like that materially higher, but treasuries are just getting slaughtered. And we got S&P 500 kind of dipping down a little bit. I do wonder, well, you know, how far does that got to go before it like really turns into a dumpster fire? Because the downtrend is really starting to, we're below. I mean, normally below the 200-day moving average is where you want to buy. So I guess if you're still bullish, then like buy it. Heck yeah, this is the place, right? I'm still really concerned about a recession though. But hey, maybe the Iranians will surrender today, huh? Yeah. Golds, a little bit of a decline yesterday as well. Silver, copper. Ooh, I don't look good in copper, but they're probably okay. Yeah, this is a relatively narrow range here anyways. 6J is gone even lower. I think that some intervention is in order here soon. Do you think that it will be a fast one, or? I'm curious. I'm really, really curious here. The Japanese gonna step in here. Oh, it's Friday the 13th, is it? Wait, do I have the date correct on here? Oh, I don't need that. Turn off the speaker. Oh, I did not. Hank Seth is talking. I thought I was missing something. Well, it's bad to be superstitious, so that means that we got to take a trade today. Being superstitious is bad luck. Oh, you guys are here. Morning, Uzi, Apol, Madi. Oh, so let's reset our levels here. Because it's telling me that we're at the level, but we're actually still below the open. Okay, so 23. It's kind of curious when you come over here and you look at my charts. With the scaling on the E-mini. Maybe if I zoom out a little bit, it makes more sense. Yeah, still. It's just like a really wide range, and the E-mini isn't coming anywhere close to it. After work yesterday, my wife was working, so I watched the kids, and I think I sat on the couch too long because my back of my pelvis is feels a little pressured. Didn't need to take a good walk today. Huh? Well, I am kind of wondering if anything really notable is going to happen. I'm cautious Goldman's 1 Delta desk sees no visible off-ramps as Iran war hits 14th day. I don't either. That's why I'm so disconcerted that it's so quiet. Okay, that uptick at 21.5 was a little interesting because the volume really kind of spilled out to 22 before it kept, pushed back. Like there was volume here, then it stepped back and there was volume here again. It's kind of disconcerting. Should I say disconcerting? I don't think that's the right word. I don't know how to put it. I really don't like that we're looking at 4.3 in yields. Like we're just short of 4.3 when last week we were looking at 4. You're short the US? Well, what security are you gonna do that with? I hope it's not the dollar, because the dollar has been really strong, right? Oops, there we go. I hope it's not the dollar that you're short. That's probably not going to work out very well for you. But hey, I hear Saudi Arabia is I hear Saudi Arabia is doing lots of investment. They're trying to diversify their economy and everything. I think the Saudis are pretty smart. They've done a lot of smart things. They've looked at the system and the way that the world works and have said, "Oh, okay," and went and made smart decisions. Something tells me though that you wouldn't be allowed to move to Saudi Arabia. Is it? So like if you're already Muslim, how hard is it to immigrate to Saudi Arabia and become a citizen? I don't know if that's a thing. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that somebody can immigrate to Saudi Arabia. Well, they weren't able to go bid at 22 now. So when I look at deltas, I'm not seeing necessarily the signs of a strong meta order. Not yet, at least. But I definitely see it in the DOM. I mean, there's definitely some pressure there. Now, the issue is that we're like right at that extended session plus 1 sigma. So that's a place that we need to be cautious about it possibly stopping at or turning around on. That's why no trade. Otherwise, I think maybe I would have taken it because I was kind of like, wow, we got to take one on Friday the 13th to prove that being superstitious is bad luck. So here's Ansteffa. How are you? I was kind of contemplating like, Seth, you got some work to do. You got some video to finish, and I've got at least 3 things. I got 3 things that we need to be doing for this YouTube channel right now that I'm not doing, and I feel bad about it. And I got to get it done. Not a thing, even a thing if you're born there, just like the UAE. Okay, so if you are Muslim and you want to immigrate to a Muslim country, like you're in the United States and you want to immigrate to a Muslim country, where can you go? Is there anywhere that you can go? Is that why they all come to Europe? Islam doesn't work the way. No. Actually, I think that it's like way. They don't have in Israel. Oh, okay. There's got to be somewhere, right? No. Now it does kind of seem to me that it's like, they don't want them to come to the other Muslim countries, do they? One because, well, it's poorer people. No offense. It's just like the immigrants and refugees tend to be poor, right? So, like a Saudi Arabia, they don't necessarily want that. And then 2, they want the number of Muslim people in other parts of the world to increase because they want Islam to take over the whole world, right? So they push it to other countries. Well, that's not true because there are Muslim countries that have taken in a lot of refugees. I know that is the case. You know what? I think I know where you should go. Turkey. I mean, I know Ed Rogan kind of doing a poor job over there, a little crazy and everything, but he'll eventually go away, right? Could be a good, probably one of the most developed majority Muslim countries. Pakistan would take you. I don't think, like, the honest truth is I don't want Mahdi to leave the United States. I think he'll figure it out. Like the thing is, I mean, I don't know. One of the things is that I feel that I have the ability to hold two contradictory frames of mind at the same time compared to other people. You know, like everybody has that compartmentalization. Like Christians, we compartmentalize the parts of the Bible that we don't like, and everybody does that to some extent. I mean, not that I'm saying that it's illegitimate to think that the Bible is set and straight and should be interpreted literally, but you know, Christians all believe that the law has been fulfilled and that you don't follow the Moses's law, the law of Moses rather, the law of Moses in the Old Testament, for instance, right? And most Christians, even though they believe in the Bible, still believe in evolution, for instance, right? So that's like two contradictory beliefs that people hold at the same time. And you just kind of switch between which one is the most useful at the time. And I think I do that more than other people. So on one hand, I think that Islam is fundamentally incompatible with Western values, and I'm worried about Sharia law becoming a thing in Western societies. Probably a long time before it happens in the U.S., but it's starting to happen, or at least there's enough people that I think it's a concern in places like the UK and Germany and so forth. But at the same time, I don't want all of those people to be deported and expelled out of the country. I think that over time, most people will integrate to some extent and adopt more Western values. They'll still be Muslim, but you know, they'll kind of become more Westernized Muslims, where they kind of conveniently forget about the passages in the Quran that say, you know, go and kill everybody and all that shit. Your optimism is hilarious. Maybe. So, just Squawk is talking. I mean, the thing is I'm not optimistic because I think that's the most likely outcome, or that's my gut base reaction. I mean, I kind of feel like my gut base reaction is no, just deport them all. But I know that it always pays to be optimistic. I know that cooperation is more effective than competition. Well, cooperative competition, right? So I guess I kind of rely back on certain values that I know are effective for you, regardless of the circumstances, right? Because South Africa used to think like you? Well, so let me go back to what I was going to say first, and then I can maybe I think about that for a second. New Squawk was saying a ton there. Was nothing new though. They would only return the favor. Well, sure, but I don't know if that really matters. So the issue that I see when we're trying to look at like what should we do is that these are all complex systems, right? These are all complex systems, and so the top line behavior, I think, is hard to predict. The emergent behavior from those complex systems is hard to predict. And that kind of means that there can be situations where everybody is doing what they think is the right thing, and it can result in an emergent behavior that is objectively bad, right? By the way, one of the ways that this happens is that, you know, there are outliers. It has to do with like the statistical distribution. There are outliers. Those outliers can have a big impact, right? So this is like crime, for instance. There's not very much of the society become perpetual criminals, but those criminals can have such a large negative impact on the society that we have to create all of these structures, law enforcement and so forth, to deal with that, right? That's complexity. It's not necessarily a nice thing to lock people up and or have the death penalty and all of these sorts of things. But because these criminals can have such a negative impact, you kind of have to do it, right? So are there some principles that no matter what, or let's not say no matter what, but let's say that are there some principles that I think you can kind of take that will help you? Because if we're talking about complexity here, it's like, well, how can you act in that situation if you really can't know the consequences of your actions at the upper level? And I think that there are a couple of principles that have been pretty solid in all human and economic systems that will serve you well. One of them is being optimistic. It pays more to be optimistic. It does. It's unquestionably true. I'm optimistic that we will solve this war in Iran in a timely manner. I will make more money if I make that bet than I will make if I'm like, this is going to accelerate. Probably is going to accelerate. Probably can make a ton of money in the short term from doing it, but not as much as you're going to make buying the dip and being long when this ends. Always pays more to be optimistic, right? The other one is cooperation. If everybody is antagonistic towards you, then it tends not to work out very well. I think that I have a problem here on this stream that like I am wary of all other finance creators because they're just full of shit for the most part. And so you don't really have any other buddy creators, and that hurts the channel. It'd be better to have people that we can collaborate with. Well, I think that those people are starting to pop up. So I'm hopeful that we'll have some collaborators in the future. But that's just one example. It's better to be cooperative, right? The United States has partnerships with nations in the Middle East. I think that we've started to get a pretty strong relationship with Saudi Arabia. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that Saudi Arabia would completely shift and go and ally itself with China in a second if they thought that it was in their best interest, or maybe they just do it temporarily because they don't like who's president or whatever, right? But in general, it's better that there are friends, right? So now when it comes to this thing about Islam, well, Seth needs to watch more Asmongold. I don't know. I don't want to be anything like Asmongold, to be honest. Well, I let you go in chat because I'm not entirely sure what to say. Partly. And partly because I want to see where you're going to go without me interfering in it first, right? We'll go back here in a second. I'll read the whole conversation. So let's go back, because I think the point you're making is the very Muslims you're trying so hard to give the benefit of the doubt to would only return the favor in kind if you converted to Islam. Okay, so I think you're taking what I've said a little bit too far, right? I'm very much against, like, let's import as many people over as we like. What's going on in Europe is really, you said revert, but I thought you meant convert, because if you say only favor in kind if you reverted to Islam, that doesn't make sense to me. Why did you use, if that was intentional, then why did you use the word revert? Now I'm confused. Now, I don't know. He's not going to say. But because Muslims believe everyone is Muslim by default and strayed from it? Well, I did not know that. That's interesting and or odd. So did they really think that, did they really call it a revert? Okay. Well, anyways. My point is kind of more that there are Muslims in the United States, and there are legal immigrant Muslims in the United States. In fact, I don't think that there's really a whole lot of illegal Muslim immigration in the United States, right? I don't think that that's really a thing. They're here, they're legal, they're staying, right? So we have to find a way to make that work. Just like in the United Kingdom, well, I think in Europe you have a lot of illegal immigration there, and yeah, you should get rid of the illegal immigrants. But in the UK, you know, like, there's people that are there, they've had kids. Like, you can't just expel them. Like, what do we expect the UK to do? I often wonder when I'm on, like, patriots.win and I'm reading people talk about what's going on in the UK and everything. It's just kind of like, what do you want to do? Because I don't really see how you change that back without committing genocide, frankly. You know, so you have to make it work, right? And so I don't want people that are legal citizens of the United States to immigrate to other parts of the world. I mean, I think that maybe we're saying something different. Like, I wouldn't forcibly expel them. Maybe you're saying, well, yeah, but if they felt unwelcome here and they would prefer to go and move to Turkey, then that would be in our benefit. Okay, maybe. But I'm kind of more thinking, yeah, but that's unlikely, first of all. And I think we can work with it. I think that there are still a lot of good and interesting people that have things to add and contribute, and that people do change over time and over generations, and then we can make it work. And you know, honestly, we don't really have a choice anyways, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Diana? I don't think they should all be kicked out. You should understand you're not going to get a rainbow coalition out of it. Oh, yeah. No, you're definitely not. You're definitely not. could and the other issue that I see here, I don't know how the United States is going to deal with this, but it well, and you know, I'm kind of thinking too far ahead here. Like as I'm saying these things, like, oh, I don't know if this really makes sense here. Let's talk about if we're in the UK, right? It's going to be sectarian over there, right? Like that group of people. Even though I have hopes that, you know, relations there will improve over time, culture there will improve over time, because some of the things that I'm hearing about what's happening in the UK is very unsettling. Very, very unsettling. You know, like this whole rape gang scandal. And then the government just hides it because they're afraid of how people will react to it. That's not good. We don't want those things happening, right? So I hope that those things improve over time. But the reality of it is that that group of people will probably always have a tendency to vote together. They'll always have a tendency to vote together, and politics in the UK will become increasingly more sectarian, which is a difficult thing to deal with. If the United States became sectarian, well, I don't have enough Muslims here for that to be a thing. You know, Latinos, that's a large enough group, but I'm find that Latinos are diverse enough, especially people that, you know, are integrated, like they've been here for a few generations and everything, that, you know, you take out the immigration issue and they come out on all sorts of different sides, right? So that's not necessarily a single block. You know, we have some degree of racial or ethnic voting blocks in the United States, but it's not like the most dominant factor, you know. And if it did become the most dominant factor in the United States like that, I don't know if our system could handle it. I think that there are some things about the way that our system works that would make that really nasty. Because over in Europe, they've got like the parliament system, and they've got multiple parties, and new parties are being formed and dissolved all the time. In the United States, we have a two-party system, and the structure of everything really kind of lends itself towards a two-party system. So if one party really truly became co-opted by a particularly large ethnic group, and everything just turned into this party versus this party, this ethnic group versus everybody else, I think that would destroy the country. Islam is stronger than you. Muslims have a considerably greater will than you do. The Islamic world still needs to go through the Reformation Christianity did, so that it will become more palatable for Western societies. I don't know about that. So, because it seems to me that Islam is or has been going through a reformation of sorts, right? Like it is really that the what do they call it? The Shia Crescent, right? So it's like parts of Syria, parts of Iran and Iraq that have like the extremists, and I guess there's Yemen too, right? But the majority of the Muslim world, like Saudi Arabia, has a much milder form of Islam that is kind of becoming even more westernized, and is in my view kind of transforming itself so that it can work with the rest of the world better. You don't think that that's what's going on in Saudi Arabia? Oh wait, what does Paul say in here? History repeats often. Roman Empire, nah. None of it existed. If history is true, then in all theories, Islam will follow America nearly perfectly, dot for dot. They're just behind for now. So give them a few years, and they will probably be spoiled just like us. Our country just got rich first. I don't think you understand how wealthy the Arab world is. Okay. Not just in wealth, a little bit more too. I don't know how to word it. Well, I think the word you're searching for is modernized, right? Even though the Islamic world, there are parts of the Islamic world that are fabulously rich. They're not quite as modernized and industrialized and so forth. That is a much more recent thing for them. I feel a little lost. The question that I'm asking is, I believe that parts of the Muslim world are kind of undergoing a reformation. So why does the things that you're pointing out show that that's not what's happening? What country do you consider your country? That will absolutely happen. Yeah. Well, so here's the thing, though. I don't know. It really seems to me that one of the primary driving factors behind, maybe this is like a really, really bad take, but I really think that the main driver behind the secularization of American society and religion becoming less popular in the United States is really birth control pill. Once people could have sex without having to worry about getting pregnant, and hookup culture became a thing, everybody wanted to have sex, and Christianity said, no, you can't do that. That's fornication. So large groups of people said, well, I'm not going to be Christian anymore because I still want to do that. And, I mean, Islam has different laws in respect to that, but if you're Muslim, you still don't have sex outside of marriage. So would there be Muslims that would leave the Muslim faith because they want to fool around when they're in high school and college? I don't know. I don't know if that would play out quite the same in Muslim culture. So Molly, so this is the thing that really bothers me, is that if you live in the United States, especially if you're a United States citizen, your country should be the United States. Yeah, sure, you came from Somalia, but I really don't understand why, like, man. I don't like that we have people in the United States that do not believe in the United States or in the Constitution or in the values that made us great at all. And they're just here because they can make more money here. I really, really hate that. But I also, I don't understand why you would live somewhere where you don't have allegiance to it, right? Like if you really truly believe in Somalia and you like Somalia, then you should live in Somalia and deal with the problems that they have and make it great. Yeah, because I feel like that is it. It's like if you're only here because of greed. You're basically selling out your own country for greed. Is how I view that. I'll leave when I have enough money. Let me tell you something, Marty. It never works out that way. It never works out that way. Having worked with countless immigrants, like the Hispanic people they think the same way. Like they don't plan on living in the United States forever. Most illegal immigrants are not intending on being here forever. They want to make as much money as they can. They send as much of that money back home as they can. And their intention is to then retire with the money that they sent their family. And what always happens is either they never build up enough money to feel comfortable going back home, and then they've been here the whole time and they've built their life here, and so they don't want to move back, or the money gets squandered and they go back home and there's nothing there for them. That is always what happens. So if you are planning your life around an assumption like that, I would rethink things. Honestly, I would rethink things. I would say, well, I'm here now and this is where I'm going to make my life, and I need to just accept that that's the way it is. And if that is the way it is, then at this point I'm an American. And see, he doesn't want Somalia to be a rich country, but he wants to have money so he can go back to the poor country. This is why I don't have kids, because he doesn't want to raise them here. Oh. Yeah. Well, I do understand that there's a lot of people here like that. I'm not saying that they're not here. But I am saying it would be better if we convince them to become Americans. And the way that you do that isn't through creating enmity with them. Right? That's the Mormon word, enmity. Enmity is we're all I don't want to say where all evil comes from, but like that's kind of where things start. Is you build up pride, you start to think, oh, I'm better than these people because I've got this or I do this. And then that changes to enmity. You think that these other people are bad because they're not like that. And it spirals into very nasty things. They're not going to forsake olive for barbecue, pork, booze, gambling, and bikini. Well, wait, what? I mean, why are those the things that you say are synonymous with being American? Yeah, I need to free up some more space here on my machine. Okay. Hold on, I'm still at why do we view barbecue, pork, booze, gambling, and bikini girls America? Because that's not my America. Yeah, I guess that's why they don't like the Mormons. I don't know. You need some Muslim friends? I guess. Well, let me tell you something. I think that America is a belief in the Constitution of the United States and a belief in the principles and protections that are enshrined in the Constitution. And if you don't believe in those things, if you think that the Constitution is bad, do you think that we should just trash the whole thing? Like, the Constitution provides mechanisms for us to modify it and update and improve it to match the changing times. That's part of why it was so brilliant. But if you don't believe in the Constitution, I think you should get out. I don't want you here. That's the whole thing. The United States is a nation based on a set of ideas and not based on an ethnicity or race or anything like that, or even a religion, right? It is the ideas enshrined in the Constitution. If you're a person that does not believe in the Constitution, like you think that the Constitution should be done away with and we install a caliphate in the United States, get out. And I think you're not a true American if you don't believe that. You know what I mean? That to me is American. And I think that there are some things in Islam that kind of contradict that, to be honest with you. Okay? Because they have a political system, and they want that system to take over the whole world, and that means that it would supplant the United States. So I do feel that Islam, the religion, in a way, not in a way, I mean it just straight up, it's contradicts the Constitution. They're not compatible. But I also think that most Muslims don't really, they kind of practice a milquetoast version of it that is compatible. And most Muslims in the United States, they can be compatible. On the other hand, how many of them actually are there? It's not that westernized Muslims don't exist. It's just I wouldn't consider them to be good Muslims, if Muslim at all. And the vast majority of Muslims would agree with that. Yeah. Well, I saw a poll. Actually, this was on Zero Hedge this morning. Oh man, for some reason I don't feel very good all of a sudden. Like having a sugar problem or something. I need to calm myself. It's probably my vagus nerve is getting a little weak. Anyways, they did a poll and they found that like 50% of Muslims in the UK had Islamist or anti-Semitic ideas. It's because when you say the vast majority would agree with that sentiment, like when I hear that, I think, so they think it's like maybe 5 or 10% of Muslims think that. But I think that it's more like 50-50. Depending on which area of the Muslim world they're coming from. It's not as no, it's not a stroke. It feels like a valgus. I don't know how to explain. It's kind of slightly the feeling that I get when I pass out. Like when I get my blood taken, or I think about when Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck and blood squirted out his neck, or things like that. You know, like just the valgus nerve gets triggered and it tightens up and everything. But I've been feeling some tension in my lower back and pelvis area from sitting bad yesterday. So it could be that there's that tightness is kind of pressing on the valgus nerve and making me feel like that. Let me go and find the foam roller. Roll it out. No, I'm not having a stroke. I do look a little pale. Probably. I could be getting so. So it's gotten warm here in Utah. Like it's like 70 high of the day. And so on Tuesday I said, well, I should weight lift. So I did weightlifting in the garage and I saw the mosquitoes. And like I swatted at him and everything, but I thought that I was okay because they weren't landing on my legs or anything. Well, turns out the mosquitoes landed on my back and bit me through my shirt, I think. But that, or they like climbed up my shirt and bit me. So I've got 3 on my upper back, 1 on my lower back, 1 on my leg, and 1 on my arm. So I've got at least 6 mosquito bites on me. And I don't know if it's just that my reactions to mosquitoes get worse over time, or if these are like mosquitoes that got something. You know, like if you get mosquitoes that have West Nile virus or something like that, then you get a bigger welt, right? They're all really big welts. And I was doing fine. And then in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was really, really itchy. And I tried to put it off. But eventually I had to go and find the hydrocortisone cream and put it on. And I can't see them because they're on my back. So, you know, because my mom was like, you know, like this gets bad enough you can get staph infection from those. So my immune system might be acting weird because of that. And then, you know, pressure on my valgus nerve, you start thinking about it. That, and I don't think that I had a very good dinner. So, you know, the food probably hasn't reached my small intestines. Get the sugar flowing in my blood, so I'm probably also dealing with low blood sugar, and I think that's why I feel kind of. You kind of start to get a little bit of a headache. Yeah, there you go. What does the Constitution have to do with me wanting to raise my kids in a Muslim country? And as he says, because the Constitution is the thing that stands between you and experiencing the oppression we'd experience in Iran or Somalia. Well, oh, actually, that's not what I thought you were going to say. I was going to say the Constitution, not having a Constitution, is the part of the reason why Somalia is so fucked up. But I think it's that some people in the world have this idea that Americans just got rich because they're just lucky that they got in a certain part of the world, and the United States has resources and all of these sorts of things, right? Well, and yeah, the United States, it sits in the position it does in the world now, largely because of World War II. But all of our success from that comes from the Constitution and the ideals that are enshrined in the Constitution that came from the founding fathers. That has made the United States different, and that is where we continue to be very successful versus other countries, even other European countries. And parts of the world that have these trouble, it's because they don't have those ideals in there. You know, even if they have a constitution, like, the people don't have that culture. And you don't get the trust that comes from that, and then it just ends up being chaos and war zone over and over. It's a simple request. Why do you want to raise your kids in a Muslim country? Well, because they believe that Western values are bad. I understand why they don't, because faith in Allah makes living in an Islamic society where poverty and starvation is rampant preferable to our decency. The way that you said that was funny. I'm not necessarily agreeing with it, but my future American kids will put me in a retirement home and my Somali kids won't. Oh. I hate to break it to you, buddy, but unless you're putting a ton of money away in your 401k and IRA accounts, you're not going to be able to afford the retirement home. Yeah, in Somalia, they can't put you in a because they don't have retirement. I mean, I feel like I understand wanting to raise your kids, if you have strong religious values, wanting to raise your kids in a culture that better reflects those religious values. Just like I very much prefer to raise my kids in Utah, where everybody is Mormon, rather than somewhere else in the United States. Granted, it wouldn't be too bad. And I at times regret not moving for better opportunity. But then at the same time, I look at what has happened to a lot of the places in the United States that I probably would have had to move to, like New York. And it's not very pretty, so I guess I probably made the right choice staying in Utah. But if Utah had the same kind of political instability and issues in Somalia, I would just forget it. I wouldn't go back. Kidding me? Nah. So there's a reason that they're doing poorly, and until that changes, I don't want to be part of it. I tell you what, the older I've gotten, I think if there's anything in terms of my attitudes that has changed, it has been my willingness to stick it out for a team that I think is losing. You know, like when I was a kid, basketball was the thing, of course, in Utah, because the Jazz was one of the NBA finalists. We got, screwed. Michael Jordan pushed off. And then after that, Karl Malone, John Stockton retired. Utah team wasn't as good anymore. And then they rebuilt the team, and they decided that team wasn't good enough, and they kind of blew it up. And in sports, you're supposed to stick with that, right? Well, the team's going to go through good times and bad times. I just can't care. The team sucks. Team sucks. NBA isn't fun to watch. The NBA sucks. Why should I continue watching it? Just because I watched it before? It's not a good enough reason. It's a failing product. I don't want anything to do with it. I played a lot of Overwatch for a long time. And then Blizzard got taken over by Activision. They keep doing stupid stuff. They keep changing the game in negative ways. I want nothing to do with it. The losing team. If they change the things that I like about the game, why keep playing it? When I was younger, it was like, yeah, we put it out, tough it out as long as you can. Of course, all games get worse over time, but you just tough it out as long as you can, and try and make friends in that community. I don't want to just leave your friends in that community. Now I'm like, nah, screw it. It's gone. I'm done. I'm out. If they started to implement terrible policies in Utah that I know are, like if all of the sudden everybody in Utah decided that we're going to implement a wealth tax, for instance, I'm gone. Like I said, some of the things that I know are always going to be a benefit to you. Being optimistic pays more, and cooperation. This kind of envy politics, where, right, somebody else has this much money. If I can't get that much money, then nobody should be able to have that much money. It's envy. That's corrosive. That's damaging to a society. And any society that starts to adopt, or culture that starts to adopt that as their key values, will fail over time. And I would get out as quickly as I could. I can always go to India for healthcare. Muslim country like Malaysia. So when we were starting to talk about earlier, I was kind of thinking Malaysia, but I wasn't sure if you would be as comfortable in Malaysia because, it's just they're, well, I don't know. Would Malaysia be a good place? Are there tell maybe ChatGPT can maybe ChatGPT. I think this would be a really, really interesting thing to give ChatGPT. Let's get to ask ChatGPT, and then let's ask Grok. Okay. Would a Somali immigrant be more comfortable immigrating to Turkey or Malaysia? Copy that. Oops. Wait, why did it open up a... rock? Oh, in general. Oh, man. Okay, ChatGPT says that they'd be more comfortable in Malaysia, but it depends on the specific factors you mean by comfortable. Here's the main dimensions that matter. Religion and cultural fit. Both countries are majority Muslim, but the experience differs. Malaysia is 60% Muslim, and Islam plays a visible role in daily life. Somali immigrants often find halal food, mosques, and Islamic institutions very accessible. Malaysia hosts many African and Middle Eastern students, including Somalis. Islamic education and Arabic study are common. Turkey is 99% Muslim culturally, but the state is historically secular. Religion is present but less institutionalized in daily governance compared to Malaysia. Hosts Turkey's Somali diplomatic and humanitarian ties and many Somali students. Both are religiously comfortable, but Malaysia often feels more Islamically institutionalized, with some Somali immigrants prefer. Oh, okay. So that does kind of sound like that Mahdi would be happier in Malaysia. Immigration and visa reality. In Malaysia, immigration enforcement for Africans has tightened in recent years. Many Africans overstay student visas and face legal issues. Turkey has been more open to Somali immigration, especially students and refugees. Strong diplomatic relationship between Somalia and Turkey. Ah, okay, so he would probably be happier in Malaysia, but probably more likely to be able to get into Turkey. That's interesting. But wait, are you a U.S. citizen or just a refugee, or how does that work? I don't know how that works. After 5 years of residence, refugees are eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship. Okay. You've been here since I was 6, but have you actually applied and become a citizen? I guess I'd have to assume that you have. I mean, if you haven't, then what? Why not? That probably means that he probably has, right? Oh yeah, we got it. Man, ChatGPT, it really thinks things through. You got to think about the climate. Are you like living in a tropical, humid area? Well, if you've been here since you were 6 and you lived in Minnesota, then you probably don't really know what it's like to live in a tropical area. I don't know if I would enjoy living in a tropical area. Turkey, I heard, is nice. Yeah, probably the weather better for you in Turkey. You still use ChatGPT even as they keep pissing everyone off. Huge increase in uninstalls recently. Crap product already has ads and its paid version is nearly less than multiple. Okay, so, oh, you know what? You weren't around here for that conversation. So explain this to me, Apalm. Because here's what I saw happen. Is Anthropic was having negotiations with the U.S. government, and Anthropic said, well, here are our red lines. You can't do this, 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 and this. And or at least the story that Anthropic told us was, oh, we have these red lines. You can't pass. And the U.S. government said, no, that's not okay. We're going to go and make a deal with somebody else. And then, like, the very next day after Donald Trump threw a fit about that, they announced a deal with OpenAI. And the deal with OpenAI was basically like, we have a deal. And but the U.S. government can't do this, and this, which were basically the same things that Anthropic said were off limits, which is it can't make the decision to kill. The human still has to make the actual decision to kill, and it can't be used for mass surveillance. Those were the two qualifiers, right? And first, okay. So when that happened, everybody said, "Oh no, we don't like OpenAI because they partnered with the U.S. administration to do all of these bad things." Except for there was like the same qualifiers, you know? It's just like the whole thing is bizarre. It doesn't make any, like what's been sold to the public, at least initially, doesn't make much sense. Why they were able to make a deal with OpenAI and not Anthropic, and why OpenAI getting the contract means that we should boycott them. But yeah, now a ton of people are boycotting OpenAI because they don't like that deal. Yeah, Donald Trump called Anthropic a nut job. Well, a week later, a email was released where Anthropic really strongly criticized the U.S. administration. So it kind of seems to me that it was really less about where the red lines were and everything, and really more about that Anthropic just genuinely doesn't like Trump. Kind of seems to me that that's why the deal didn't happen. Okay. But, is ChatGPT like a worse product and all of those sorts of things? Depends on what you're asking it. I, for some reason, find it more convenient to go and ask ChatGPT things most of the time. And save Claude for code at work. I sometimes use Grok, like in this instance is when I find Grok a little more interesting. So can I show you something else I did? Here it was. So I've done this with AI many, many times. So this time I thought, oh, okay, what if we tell the AI that it's a complexity economics expert? And then we ask it to analyze, will AI replace everybody sort of thing? Right? Will you get universal basic income or what? Right? Okay, act as a complexity economics researcher. What are the most likely outcomes from AI that is able to replace all labor, including both physical labor with robots and all knowledge work? Okay. And then what does it go? It says, well, one, you could get a bifurcated economy. Two, you could get universal basic income. Okay. Well, I know that is probably not likely to work. So I push back. Where is it? I'm not going to read that whole thing. I push back. I think your trading data is tainted with too much discussion about basic universal income. If everyone gets money from the government, that will almost certainly result in inflation. It goes back on this. It says, well, maybe not, because the actual amount of money in the economy doesn't change. But then I come in and I say, no, you're incorrect. You might say that we have the same amount of capital but redistributed, but the problem is that you don't control where the money goes from there. People will spend it on the same things. The cost of those things will go up from the demand because the money comes from the government. Very little capital will actually be invested in new production. So in the long run, you'll get stagnation and inflation. And eventually it says, okay, yeah, actually, you're right. But in this case, I kind of think that ChatGPT is just saying, well, you're right, because it's a sycophant. It's, if I strongly believe something, it's not going to argue with me, right? I had to argue with it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. Now, we ask Grok. Okay. So, first, it starts talking about this. Oh, Post-scarcity abundance with redistribution mechanisms, high probability of happening 60 to 70%. Right? I'm like, okay. So it says the same thing as ChatGPT. But then I come down and I say, okay, well, my pushback was a little bit longer last time, but I said, I believe there is a bias in your training data towards UBI models. UBI is unlikely to work. And I kind of took the lessons that I learned from arguing with ChatGPT. While you might have the same amount of capital and goods being produced, this would shift demand for particular goods. Individuals would spend all their allotment on basics like food and shelter. Nothing would be spent on investment. Consumption habits mean less and less capital going towards the production side of the economy, resulting in stagflation. Long before anything like that would happen, we would see large-scale hyper-deflation, which would prompt significant money printing. So I wanted to see what is if it would go into the hyper-deflation model. But the way the response from Grok to that one was a little bit more interesting to me. As a complexity economics researcher, I appreciate your critique. It's a valuable push to interrogate assumptions in any model. Well, my training data, continuously updated through 2026, draws from diverse economic literature, including pro and anti-UBI perspectives. I don't inherently bias towards any policy. Instead, I model outcomes based on emergent system behaviors, historical patterns, and empirical evidence. Okay, so it understands why I'm asking it to be a complexity economics researcher. That said, UBI often surfaces prominently in discussions of AI-driven labor elimination because it's a straightforward redistribution mechanism in a capital-dominant economy. Your points on demand shifts, investment shortfalls, stagflation risks, and deflationary pressures are well grounded in classical economics, e.g. Keynesian demand deficiencies and Austrian views on malinvestment. Let's discuss them and explore refined outcomes, incorporating critiques and alternatives to UBI for a more balanced view. So it was kind of, I feel like that response was better in almost every way. Because first of all, Grok showed the understanding of like what complexity economics was way better than ChatGPT did. I mean, like ChatGPT kind of got it, but like Grok really like integrated it into every step of the answer. And two, it recognized that the things that I was saying was based in real economics and were real good critiques. ChatGPT was kind of like, well, since you believe that, I'll tell you what you want to hear. But Grok actually said, okay, this is actually a decent response. Maybe I am being biased. So let's go over this other stuff so that we can be more biased. And it wasn't saying, oh, like UBI is not going to happen. It just said, let me present a more balanced view, because you're right. The view that I gave you before was a little bit too imbalanced towards UBI. I thought it was really, really weird. As that, now that could be sycophancy as well. To some extent, I think probably is sycophancy. Right? But I still thought that Grok has been trained better, at least for those kinds of answers. And so I do feel if I'm asking it a political question, that Grok can be better in some instances. Although if we go back to this one, we didn't read the whole, or I'm not going to read the whole thing. Summary: Turkey, larger, more vibrant Somali community, better business, education prospects, stronger bilateral ties, greater sense of belonging, and flourishing diaspora. Malaysia, smaller community, more challenges for refugees like legal limo, limited work, some positives for students, but overall less comfort and integration. Sounds like Mahdi should go to Turkey, but... Okay, going back PayPal says the whole company was founded on lies, sold on lies, turned on the exact people who invested in more. They took the government deal, which they are known to usually go really, really, really effing wrong. Well, I don't really like OpenAI as a company either. But you know what? I don't like any of the large model providers. There's things I don't like about Anthropic. There are things that I don't like about Grok. Well, Google is okay. I kind of feel like Google has lost its way though. I feel like the engineering at Google has gotten bad over time. Why would an AI model appreciate your critique? Because the model would recognize that is the approach to complexity economics has to. I love how Google blatantly lies right now. The thing that owns YouTube, they are literally acting like they are disgusted right now with putting ads in their AI. But we all know for a fact that it will too. Yeah. So something I thought was really, really interesting though was there was a poll released earlier this week, and the big political headline that we read from this headline was that Democrats and individual Democrat politicians in particular were extremely underwater in favorability. But that poll also showed that artificial intelligence was extremely negative in favorability. So the average person really does not like AI. Well, I frankly, I really enjoy AI, but I hate the companies and I hate what businesses are doing with it. I feel that there is like fundamental misunderstanding about how the technology works and what it's capable of and what it's good at and not good at. And it's really frustrating to me when people act like that it's just going to do everything perfectly and it's going to take everybody's jobs and all of that. Well, I'm not saying that that couldn't happen, but there'd have to be a pretty fundamental change in the way the technology works for that to happen. And then meanwhile, people are just using AI to create trash content. Like, I swear, every other post that I see on Reddit is like the same shit. Or like, I keep seeing threads on Reddit in the day trading subreddits that are basically like, hey, you can make money with a win rate lower than 50%. You just make enough on your winners. Like, no effing duh. And it's like the same post over and over, like complete different variations, but it keeps showing up. And some of them are obvious AI slop, like they have phrases and ideas in them that just make no sense. No matter how much Jensen and Microsoft screams everyone is using it and how great it is, it's all lies, provable lies. All normal people hate Copilot, for example, almost all. Yeah, and like the way that Microsoft is going with their new operating system, if they really do release what is rumored or what was leaked, the chances that people just leave Microsoft Windows in mass, I think it could happen. Because that will then be 2 or 3 operating systems now that people feel like that they can't move over to it. And this one's going to have so much shit in it that people will just not move. normal people talking in gas stations complain about Copilot. For real, everyone. You know what? I've honestly never used Copilot. most of the AI stuff that I've done, like in my job, has been Claude. I tell you what, Claude is frustrating sometimes. It'll be like you'll give it something and it'll do it perfectly. And you're like, oh wow. So then you give it something else that's like, oh, you should be able to handle this, and then it just completely falls flat. Especially, I find that if it runs into an error, it'll go on this big long tangent trying to solve this error when it's like a simple thing. So you really have to watch it so that it doesn't go too far off track. Yeah, we're enthusiasts who know how to avoid it. Microsoft forced it into everything they post. They broke photos and notes by adding. Oh, really? I don't know if my computer wants to restart, so I think that update might be the one that puts Copilot and everything. Maybe I just don't have it on this machine yet. At work though, I've been using a Mac, and I could have asked them for a Windows machine, but everybody on my team was using a Mac, and I just kind of realized, well, all of the tools are going to be set up to work on a Mac, so I need to use that. And I've had zero problems. Everything's been really easy to set up, and so many times in Windows or trying to get certain developer tools to work and so forth now is just a complete pain in the ass. But Mac has been a really good developer experience. Now, I don't like the Mac interface, to be honest with you. There's a lot of things about the way it's just not designed for a power user that's going to have a lot of windows open and stuff. But I just used a Windows manager that allows me to manage all of the windows with the keyboard, and it's been fine. So that makes me think that, yeah, if Microsoft really screws up Windows, puts too much AI and user account, and it's like a monthly subscription and all of that stuff, people will refuse to move over, and they will move over to probably mostly Macs and some Linux. And then on top of that, Mac or Apple is releasing that new laptop that's super cheap. Yeah, I think everybody's going to buy those super cheap laptops and use that for everything other than gaming. And gamers, who knows? Maybe the gamers just go over to SteamOS. Yes, Windows no longer just works because of AI and Copilot. Once they started using Copilot to write code, that's why Microsoft recently had multiple huge zero-day exploits and more. It's bad. You only know about these certain stuff if you're on the cybersecurity side of things. Get on those more and learn these companies are effing you in small ways with AI and data harvesting, even notes. Yeah. Well, so I am aware of those things, but I've been getting hints of so like what I heard was that Amazon feels that they've had incidents because of AI generated code, and so nothing is able to be checked in without a senior engineer reviewing it. And I'm sitting here like at Amazon, you can check in code without a senior engineer reviewing it? What? Because it's always been the way that I've done it, is that another senior, well, I guess most of the teams that I've been on, there's not like senior engineers and junior engineers. I haven't been on many teams with juniors, but somebody else has to review the code and look at it. Like, my goodness. and they know the application. So that's where with Microsoft that I'm kind of like, whoa, wait, what is, you don't have the guy that there and understands that application and wrote the code and knows it really well enough that, you know, AI can come in and make changes and they can detect the problems in it. Ugh, what a nightmare. So I know I kind of changed the subject. I was, we should, you know, on the Somalia thing again. I don't know, man. If you would rather live and have kids in a Muslim country, then you go and move to a Muslim country, and I guess that's probably what you know, conservatives here in the United States want anyways. It really rubs me the wrong way, like economic migrants. I don't like that. I think that you should just be American. I think that that in the long run, you and your kids and everybody else would be happier by embracing America and just considering yourselves Americans and leaving Somalia behind. But I don't know how I would convince somebody of that. Because I know that it would be really hard to convince me to move to New York right now, for instance. I also feel like earlier Uzi trying to make an argument that's not really what I was saying. I don't know. The issue is always when I see a comment out like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, but like, what's the natural end game of that? I don't know. Well, if the natural end game of that is that we should discourage immigration from Islamic countries, okay, maybe you're right. I feel like if you live in Saudi Arabia and you want to immigrate to the United States, then okay, come over. But only if you want to immigrate to the United States because you appreciate America and the Constitution and American values, not because you want to make money. So in the future now, all future cars are coming with AI auto trackers to track hands, eyes, and ears to prevent DUIs, supermass surveillance through cars. Yeah. And guess who's going to make that possible with their new contract? I think I have an idea. Pretty open AI about my idea. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like don't hate the player, hate the game. See, I don't like OpenAI or really any of these guys because they have this view of what the future is going to be like that I think is stupid. It's not going to play out that way. I think that it's like you get these tech bros and they're seeped in liberal communist kind of culture, but then they're an entrepreneur. And so they come out with this kind of bizarre hybrid thing where through our business, we're going to give everybody communism. And I think it's just dumb. And I feel like that it's like so very disconnected from real economics And, you know, basically you got these people that don't realize what they don't know. And yet this ignorant, short-sighted vision is being put up as like the blueprint for the future. Yeah, then everything that they do, people are gonna hate. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, this universal basic income thing, if it really turns into AI can do all jobs, there's no work anymore, and so we just tax the AI companies, or we give everybody like a dividend in it, right? And then you all get universal basic income, and then that really would result in a bifurcated economy where the rich people that were in the AI and in the stocks before, they all live super wealthy, and everybody else lives in squalor. That's what it would be, and that's not a balance. That would be a recipe for Butlerian jihad. Like, it would, right? So, what these guys believe, I think, is ultimately dumb. And then the thing that drives me crazy the most about it is that they're like, you see, the AI even believes this. That's why I'm asking the AI these questions about it, right? Well, yeah, because you trained it on Reddit data. Of course, it ends up being liberal on those sorts of things. So. But, yeah, cars, AI in cars, watching you all the time. Operating systems that have to verify your age before you can use them. It's coming. Probably can't stop it. Yeah. Probably can't stop it. All right. Well, anyways, should get going.